Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, please let me greet you on behalf of the Ministry of Justice and the Minister of Justice of Hungary, who cannot be here today, although she really planned to be here with you, but now she had another engagement which she couldn't refuse. So now I'm here with you today, and I'm very happy that she gave me this task today. And in the name of the Ministry, I would like to welcome you at this online conference with the issue of human rights, as it is something very close to my heart as well. It is a great honor and a privilege for me to greet all the participants of the conference organized as part of the Central European Professors Network. Obviously, above all, the greatest acknowledgement today must go to the organizers and the speakers. For the Central and Eastern European region, it is of utmost importance to strengthen the cooperation of legal experts today, especially from the Czech Republic, Croatia, Poland, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Hungary, drawing the attention of European citizens to significant topics with regard to the future of Europe, in particular with the emphasized focus on Central and Eastern Europe. The issue and legal analysis of fundamental rights as being, for historical reasons, a significant topic, especially in our region, but it has gained unprecedented relevance all over the world in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. But apart from the pandemic, the 21st century has already had plenty of challenges for us in the field of international human rights law, such as the restrictions to the right to private life or to free movement, not for public health or for security reasons, also digitalization, globalization with all its consequences for the environment remain evergreen aspects of human rights. Human rights protection has two international levels, a universal and the regional one, as well as a national level. It is of utmost importance to examine the interaction of these levels, for instance, the interaction of regional human rights systems. It may happen between courts on different continents, as it is the case for the Inter-American and the European Courts of Human Rights, or in a privileged region like ours in Europe, between courts on the very same continent. Especially as the European Union, or at the time Community, started a drastic enhancement in the mid-1990s and 2000s, there was more and more questions about the compatibility, the interaction, and possible fractions between the two cardinal judicial actors of Europe, the Court of Justice of the European Union and the European Court of Human Rights. The eventual, but in the near future, as we see, not foreseeable adhesion of the European Union to the Council of Europe's main human rights instrument, the European Convention on Human Rights, raised questions, most of which remain unanswered to date. A significant part of these unanswered questions concerns the role of the states directly affected, that is, those party to both systems. For these 27 states, it is not a distant dogmatic question to try to adapt to the existing and sometimes partly diverging international obligations, but I can tell you it is an everyday reality and an everyday challenge. Therefore, I particularly welcome the initiative that today's meeting focuses on the domestic implementation of the acquis of international human rights law, and therefore the interaction of the regional and the national level. And I can see that the experts today are going to touch upon various topics in this field, and are going to provide us with the national solutions of different countries. So, not going into the details in this aspect because there's going to be a Hungarian presentation in this field as well. I can tell you that the Hungarian Constitutional Court, whose former president is here amongst us, is a court which pays particular attention to the international developments and particularly to the findings and judgments of the two European courts. Therefore, in Hungary, we can state that the international human rights developments are taken into consideration by the highest court in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, from May 2021 till November this year, Hungary will have the honor to be the president of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe. We are looking forward to this period. We are in it already, and we started with many events, and we think that we are going to contribute to a stronger Europe based on cooperation and respect with all the conferences and events that we hold during this period. Our task will be challenging the global threats such as the pandemic, which remains with us, and the continuous other crises make the daily lives of European states very complicated, and these, of course, affect all the activities of the Council of Europe as well. But we were glad to see that also in Hungary, where we made in the Ministry of Justice many steps to ensure that both the Constitutional Court and the normal courts can continue working during this pandemic. We can see that actually this 1.5 years, which is behind us, did not really affect the way international human rights law found its way to be implemented by the courts in Hungary, because we think it is really important that throughout any crisis, may it be a public health crisis, the constitutional instruments of the state shall continue to work, and therefore it is for us especially important that we could manage that the court did not stop working during this period. Well, this new reality which we are in now, this post-pandemic new reality is going to bring us a lot of changes also in the field of human rights. But the experts today are going to tell us whether it is going to be a change for the implementation by the courts. I think that all the courts in all the countries which we are going to examine today, it is going to be a continuous interest towards the international tribunals which we pay attention to. This program today is something that we in the Ministry of Justice particularly welcome because we have the responsibility to argue in front of the European Court of Human Rights and to follow and continue constitutional conversations with other organs, for instance, the Venice Commission. So I'm particularly glad that we have former members of the Venice Commission with us here today. So coming back to as my last point, to the question whether inner courts, then let them be constitutional courts or other courts of highest or high level, should pay attention to the developments at the European field. May I draw your attention to the additional protocol number 16, which is maybe not as successful as the authors thought it would be, but it only shows that Europe is a complicated continent and that we cannot simply take over a solution from another continent. As something similar happens in the American continent, with more constitutional conversation between the high courts of the states and the Inter-American court itself, human rights court itself, but that is different in historical background, and that is different legal and social background. So without prejudice to the success of additional protocol number 16, we may conclude that the European Court of Human Rights has its influence on the national courts and the national legislation in that regard as well. And I'm really attentive to see, as long as I can stay with you, what you're going to say as experts of your field about your countries and about the international environment. And once again, thank you very much for joining us here today, and thank you very much for your time being here with us. As I think that this Central European cooperation is something that we have to keep whatever happens around us, let it be pandemic, let it be other challenges that come across Central Europe, Eastern Europe. Thank you very much for being here, and in the name of my minister, welcome. And as Professor Dean of the faculty stated, let's have a very successful event, and thank you very much for joining us today.